Hello everyone, my name is Zach, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the second part of my 400 subscribers Q&A, where we're going to answer all your tough personal questions. For example, CJ, who asks, if you could have bread for hands, what type of bread would you choose and why, lol? I don't know what possessed you to ask that question, but thank you, that's hilarious. So, CJ mentioned in their comment that they were new to the channel. So, CJ, you might not know, but I'm actually, I have celiac disease, which is a chronic and severe gluten sensitivity / intolerance. So, I would have to have gluten-free bread. And anyone who eats gluten-free will tell you, the #1 gluten-free bread brand is Udi's. So, I would have Udi's sandwich bread for hands. So, there you go. Knox Reeds asks, what's your favorite color? Definitely orange if you're wanting a specific shade. Kind of the like peachy orange you get around sunset time. I like that. Linda from over at Just a Bookaholic asks, what's your favorite pie? Also, if you end up going to grad school in New York, I could potentially make it for you. Yes, that is a bribe, lol. I should do that last part in there to hold Linda accountable. So, Linda, you better start practicing gluten-free baking, because I'm going to want my free pie if I end up in New York. But my favorite kind of pie is and has always been sweet potato pie, which is funny because I'm not the biggest fan of just sweet potatoes. I'd much rather have just a baked potato. But you add some sugar, some milk, and some spices and bake it into a pie. My dad also makes a chocolate pudding pie. That's really good, but doesn't dethrone sweet potato pie. Patronosaurus Reeds asks, it may be common knowledge and I'm just behind the times, but what are you studying / planning on going to grad school for? So I don't know if I've actually talked about this on my channel before, but I am a statistics major. If I pass my last class, which I'm taking right now, then I will graduate in December with my BA in statistics. And in grad school, I'm applying to 4 different grad schools. 2 of them have a data science program, which is like statistics plus software, which is really important if you're trying to get a job in the field because most of the statistics you do is on computers and then you need the statistical knowledge to interpret it. But the other 2 schools I'm applying to just have general masters in statistics. So either data science or statistics for grad school. Claudio Corvier Books asked a few questions. First of which, what are your thoughts on astrology? Does it interest you? I find astrology oddly fascinating because I find the personality stuff is right a lot of the time. I know people that it's not always right for, people that aren't like their signs at all, but I find a lot of people are actually a lot like their signs would describe, and it's always really particular stuff. It's never like really broad, like, you set goals. It's always like, you know, here's how you deal with a problem. I will go ahead and tell you, if you've wondered anything about me personality-wise, chances are, if you read something related to Taurus, it's probably at least 80% accurate. I am, like, a stereotypical, quintessential Taurus. So, it's hard to argue against it when you are described so well by your sign. And as I said, it's always, like, really specific stuff. I don't believe in the, like, daily horoscope fortune-telling stuff. That's just not me. And I don't really have enough, I don't really know enough about the kind of pairing romantic relationship stuff. So I can't comment on that. So I do know that my crush right now has a compatible sign, so that's exciting. So if there's any validity to that, that might be a good sign. What European language would you like to learn? Definitely Dutch. I have mostly Germanic heritage, which if you didn't know, Dutch is, the Netherlands is considered a Germanic country, even though they don't speak German. And a lot of those countries either speak Dutch predominantly or as one of their official languages. So it would be very helpful. I have heritage in the Netherlands, in Austria, and in Switzerland. I also have it in Ireland and Australia, but they both speak English to varying degrees, so I could actually just get through those with English. So if I could learn one European language, it would be Dutch. I'd actually tried to learn German at one point, and I sucked at it. Even though I got an A in the class, didn't learn much. And then his last question is, what is it like living in Florida? How many stars would you give it? Which pairs nicely with the first question Diagon Alley asked me, which is the best and worst parts of living in Florida. To describe Florida. So Florida is a weird state because Florida, you have really packed and popular cities, and then you have lots of open areas with nothing in it. You go to Orlando, you go to Tampa, you go to Jacksonville, you go to Miami, and they're very densely populated cities with lots of, store brands and malls and business and tourist attractions and all that stuff. And then you just get, stuff like Bithlo, which is in like surrounding Orange County, Orlando area. And it's just like rednecks and swampland. And it's a lot of it's a weird mix of old people who've come down from the Midwest and the Northeast, people who've come up from Puerto Rico and Cuba, and then usually descendants. How many stars would you give it? I'm going to be generous and say 2 stars. I don't like it, but I can kind of see why you might enjoy it. Best and worst parts about it. The best part is definitely the natural beauty. I'm a big fan of bodies of water. So, we have 2 different coastlines, we have lots of lakes, we have some smaller rivers. So as a fan of someone who enjoys sitting by the water, being in the water, Florida's a great place to be. And the worst part is the heat, by far. The people, with how crowded it is and the traffic, are starting to encroach on the heat as the worst part of living in Florida, but they haven't dethroned it yet. And Diagon Alley also asked me, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it that I could talk you into moving to Texas? Well, Alley, I will tell you, the graduate school admissions committees of Rice University, Texas A&M, University of Rochester, and the University of Wisconsin at Madison will make your life either infinitely harder or infinitely easier, depending on the combinations of yes and no's I get from those 4 committees. But you're definitely doing a good job of making me interested. I'm applying to 2 schools in Texas and only 1 school in the 2 other states I'm applying to, so I'm going to give you a strong 6 to a light 7. Morgan B says, you're super cute. Oh, thank you. I'm not used to hearing that. Hopefully the mustache doesn't kill that. But she asks, what are your favorite winter activities besides curling up with a book? I live in Florida, Morgan. We don't have much of a winter. Winter for us is like less than 70 degrees. I'll put the Celsius conversion up for all my friends in the wondrous lands of not America. But basically just getting to enjoy the things you do in cold weather. Drinking hot cocoa, sitting by like a fire pit or a campfire, being cold, getting to wear beanies. I really enjoy wearing beanies, skull caps, some people call them, and it's generally way too hot to wear them. So I look forward to like the month and a half, 2 months in Florida that you can actually wear it without sweating to death. Deda Saab, I think, asks, do you play video games? And if yes, what is your favorite game and genres in general? I do play video games, not nearly as much as I used to, but I do still play from time to time. I really enjoy arcade games, games like Galaga, Dig Dug, all the like Namco classics. Favorite game of all time, I always say 3. Silent Hill 2 is my favorite story-driven game. Tetris is my favorite game based on gameplay. And Ratchet & Clank 3, Up Your Arsenal, is my favorite balance between gameplay and story. I do also enjoy first-person shooters. I really enjoy puzzle games. And survival horror is another favorite of mine. I have been getting into role-playing games more the older I get. However, because they take so long to get into, and I've been very busy with school over the past few years, I haven't had much time to play them. I'm hoping after I graduate, I will get a chance to get through a couple of RPGs before I start grad school. Deanie says, I see that Vault Boy shirt. I had a Vault Boy shirt in my update video when I was asking for questions. In games, do you like playing as a good guy or a bad guy or somewhere in between? Deanie, I am a goody two-shoes. I enjoy being the paladin, positive karma collector. I enjoy being the hero in games. When given the option, I always go with the good route whenever possible. I know a lot of people find that boring, but I enjoy living in a world where I can actually positively affect the world, which I don't always feel like I can do in the real world. So, I'm a good guy in video games. Cat over at Cat Talks asks, what's your strangest everyday fear? Okay. So I don't know if this is a fear as much as just like something I dread, but it's the only thing I could come up with, and that is touching gum. I have an unrivaled hatred of all things concerning gum. I've never liked the texture. I've never found a gum that I like the taste of. I hate the sound of people chewing. I have pretty sensitive hearing and sense of smell, so I hate the sound of people chewing because they can't chew quietly. And also, I'm not the biggest fan of the smell of mint, and I loathe the smell of bubblegum. So just smelling it and the fact that it's usually that smell mixed with stinky breath, I hate. And the fact that people cannot seem to put gum in the trash can. I worked as a janitor in Universal Studios for a time, if you didn't know, and quite often I had to scrape gum off the ground. I had to scrape it off can lids, and, you end up, people just stick it everywhere and you end up touching it and your hands are gross. I was looking at paintbrushes one day, and the paintbrushes at Hobby Lobby have like cardboard backing so they can hang them. I don't like shopping at Hobby Lobby, but unfortunately they have a much better paintbrush selection than any other place near me, so unfortunately I have to make do. Just wanted to say that if you are like very strictly anti-Hobby Lobby, I get it. I'm not the biggest fan, but anyway, they use cardboard hangers, and someone had stuck gum to the cardboard hanger of a paintbrush. You nasty. So yeah, I'd say that coming into contact with a gum chomper or touching someone's disposed gum, it's gross. Kelsey from over at Kelsey Reads asks, what's your favorite hard cider? Well, Kelsey, make sure the label's facing out. It's definitely this. This is Cider Boy's Strawberry Magic. Angry Orchard has a special place in my heart because it was the first time I drank alcohol where I was like, wow, I actually want to continue drinking this. But something about the combination of the apple and the strawberry works really well with the like yeasty flavor of cider, and just it's sweet, it's tangy, it's yeasty, and it comes together. So definitely this. What are you studying in grad school? Already talked about that. Ideal vacation destination. Okay, so here's the thing. Growing up in Orlando, I don't really feel a huge draw to really visit anything because I've seen tourist traps and tourist attractions. Also, my godfather used to live in DC, so I got to visit that, so I know what it's like to go to a museum. And while, like, it's not bad, like, also just kind of... I can't really visit overseas just because I'm diabetic, and having all the supplies with you, and, if one type of supply gets lost, you're screwed. If something happens to your bottle of insulin or you run out, you're screwed. It's very dangerous traveling abroad as a diabetic, so I can't really say anything abroad either, and no city in the United States really screams out to me. So I think really my ideal vacation destination is a place to meet people or a person. So I'm really looking forward. I'm trying my damnedest to get to BookCon next year so I can meet as many of you as possible. But really just getting to visit anywhere where I could, meet with someone in real life, one of my booktube friends, and maybe I can do some cool things in the city that they like, because, people who live in the city usually know kind of cool, unknown places to go, as opposed to, like, the big tourist attractions. So, really anywhere I can meet a cool person. So, sorry if that's a weird answer. Maddie over at the Book Pusher asks, living or dead, who are 3 people you would want to have over for dinner? Oh, man. Oh, God. These last 2 questions, this one and the next one by Reads with Rachel, were both absolutely brutal to come up with answers with. So, ladies, thank you for your question, and also I hate you both. Um, but 3 people have over for dinner. So I instantly had like a long list of people, most of them artists that have inspired me in some way that I wanted to meet. And then I realized if I'm having them over for dinner, I should probably pick a trio that would work well together and I think would have interesting conversations, because it doesn't work well if you have 3 people who wouldn't talk very much. It'd kind of be you're having one conversation at a time instead of having like a nice round table dinner conversation. So 2 people I instantly realized that I wanted to meet that had a connection. The first one was George Harrison, who was the lead guitarist for the Beatles and went on to have a music career of his own. I would love to meet him. I love his songwriting. I love his songs for the Beatles. And also he inspired me to pick up the ukulele, which, if you didn't know, I have hangers on the sides of my bookshelf. So here's one. There's another one. And I got this nice one for Christmas last year. Obviously a big fan of the ukulele, so I'd love to talk with him about the ukulele. And just kind of thank him for inspiring me to pick it up. But he loves nature, and another person that has really inspired me as of late, who also loves nature, is Bob Ross. If you don't follow me on Twitter, then you might not know I've been doing kind of Bob Ross tutorials and trying to learn to paint. I feel a lot of days I'm like the worst painter ever, but I'm having fun, and so I would love to thank him for getting me invested in at least trying to paint, and also just kind of be able to talk to him because he was very secretive about his life, and also he grew up in Central Florida. So I'd love to get his opinions on Central Florida now. And I figured, okay, Bob Ross really likes nature. If you've ever watched one of his shows, you know that. George Harrison was kind of reclusive and really liked, gardening and had like a ranch that he grew up on. So we had like a nature connection. So I needed a third person who was also big into nature. And I thought about it for a while, and the final person I came up with is John Denver. John Denver, if you didn't know, was an old country folk singer. The older I get, the more I appreciate folk and like older acoustic country. I do not like new country like at all, but some older country, some old school country I do rather enjoy. And a lot of it I've gotten into from John Denver, and a lot of his music deals with nature and appreciating nature. And so I felt like those 3, because they all inspired me, because they're all people I respect, because they're all people I would love to be able to talk to for an evening, and because they all love nature, and that would be an easy connection to get like a good conversation going, I would pick those 3. So George Harrison from the Beatles, John Denver, and Bob Ross. All right, and the last question from Raised with Rachel, the other just absolutely brutal question, was if you could only have one book, one album, and one food to have forever on a deserted island, what would your choices be? Rachel, why? I have so many albums I love. I have tons and tons of books that I've been enjoying, and I might be a picky eater who eats the same 12 things, but I really love those 12 different things I eat. So, like, one of each. It's so hard. But I did manage to come up with one of each. So let's start with food. So my favorite food of all time is this baked mac and cheese recipe that my mom found online. And I was torn between that and the basic bitch answer of pizza. Even though I do love that mac and cheese and would miss it, I am going to go with the basic bitch answer of the pizza, because I feel like there's more variety you can do with pizza between like the thickness of the crust, the different sauces you could use. Because I've had pizza with like pesto sauce and like buffalo sauce, and obviously like marinara sauce. The different cheeses you can use, the different toppings you can have. You can double stack, you can get thick crust, pan, and all these different weird combinations, and it still be considered pizza. So for the sheer variety potential, I'm gonna go with pizza. Also, that mac and cheese is a really heavy food, and to eat it day in and day out, I feel like I would become very fat very quickly. And at least on pizza, I can get some veggies and some like lean meats on it to help with like nutrients and such. One book. This one was actually the easiest to come up with. There's a single volume bind up of Mira Grant's Newsflesh trilogy. I think it's called The Rising, if memory serves. So I would get that, because then I could read Feed, I could read the sequel Deadline, and then I could read the first half to 2/3 of Blackout, and then I would have all the time I needed on my deserted island to write an ending to that series that didn't make me want to bang my head against a brick wall till the pain stops. That got really dark. I'm sorry. I really did not like the ending of Blackout, the ending of that series, but the first two books are really good, and by that point you might as well finish it. Just know the ending to the third book, in my opinion, was not great. And then one album, God, that's so hard. But I am gonna pick Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. I searched high and low for a first pressing of this record, and I finally found one, as you can see. But of all my favorite albums, this one I think is the one that plays best regardless of what kind of mood I'm in. A lot of my favorite albums I need to be in a specific kind of headspace for, whether it be something like the Beatles' Abbey Road, I need to be in a more kind of playful mindset, or Frank Sinatra's ballad albums, which I need to be kind of down in the dumps to fully appreciate. This album I can listen to sad or happy or mad, whatever. I enjoy it. It sounds great. So for that, I think I'm going to go ahead and pick this album. But I would miss tons and tons and tons of albums. But if I had to pick one, I think I'm going to go with this one. So that is all for me today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this Q&A. I hope it was informative. And if I missed any questions, I apologize. Please put them down below and I will answer you. How do I end these? If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe if you feel so inclined. And I will see you next time.